Good evening, Niner faithful, and welcome to another episode of the live Mailbag show that happens every Tuesday on the channel. Excited to get into it. Although, admittedly, I just wanted to start off and acknowledge a couple of things. First and foremost, wanted to start out on the topic of Jimmy Garoppolo and the quarterback saga. I think as faithful, we have got to have patience at this point in time. I know for me personally, I find it to be pretty frustrating with where we've gotten. If I interpret 49ers Twitter correctly, I think people in general, 49er faithful, are feeling like, hey, we have reached the end of our level of stress that is tolerable, and we really would like to move on. But it's obvious that the 49ers feel Jimmy has value, and they are either rightfully or stubbornly, depending on your opinion of the matter, holding on to Jimmy Garoppolo until they can get what they deem to be the correct value in return for him. And then when you think about a team that is attempting to achieve that goal, there's just no way. There's no way that Lynch or Shanahan can actually provide useful information to those of us in the fan base, the faithful, without simultaneously destroying their own leverage. Right? Even though we all know they aren't being totally truthful in their intent with what they say to us, they have to absolutely posture as if they're keeping Jimmy Garoppolo. Because what other choice do they have at this point? They could freely admit, you know what? The team's called our bluff and eventually we're going to have to release him. You can't say that. That is shooting the value square in the foot. I did think, though, in comparison between John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, Kyle was far more forthright in his statements around his faith in Trey Lance starting and Trey Lance being the starter in 2022, but still did hint at that willingness to keep Jimmy around if need be. So I wanted to address that first. Also want to acknowledge those that are here in the chat early on in the program, those that religiously hit that like button early on. I love it. Dustin Kohler, look at this. Am I early? Jimmy G, baby. Dustin, what's up, my man? Charles Thurman coming in, sneakerhead here on the channel. Still have Jimmy. Bad business, I think. It definitely didn't work out in the way it should have in an ideal situation for the San Francisco 49ers. Steve-O, I think, talking about Jed York here. Easy to see why we haven't won a Super Bowl underneath this guy. Sean 951 Niners, bang, bang, Niner gang. Raphael 562, sneakerhead here on the channel. What's up, Rob and everyone? I'm going to take this chance to say the other piece that I was going to acknowledge at the beginning of this show is, I always attempt to get my energy up for a program like this because I enjoy live streaming. I enjoy being a part of it. But I felt like it would be disingenuous for me not to say something. And I felt like maybe there's someone else out there that watches this video that wants to hear it. That quite frankly, I had a tough time getting up for this show. I personally am just going through some things in my life. And sometimes that leads to a day where life is difficult, right? Where something is hard, things aren't quite going your way, and you just don't feel okay. And I thought it was appropriate to address that because I want to acknowledge the idea that it's okay not to be okay and that there are other people out there who may be feeling the exact same way for completely different reasons. And someone out there may need to hear that it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to be sad about things. It's okay to have things in your life that aren't going the way that you wish that they were. And it's okay to talk about those things because for me personally, as I keep those things inside, it eats away at me slowly but surely. I can put on the face and I can pretend like nothing is happening. And that's not healthy for me in the long term. And I don't say these things in any way to get any sympathy from anybody. That is not my intention. It was definitely my intention to communicate it so that I'm being transparent about me because it's healthy for me to say those things. And in speaking to anybody who might enjoy hearing that themselves. Anybody who might be going through something at their own speed, somebody who again might need to hear a little positive messaging. So I appreciate all of you for being here. It wasn't my intention to drag down the energy of this. It's not going to be my focus for the show. The show is all about your questions. I have the previously submitted questions. I have those of you that are here in the chat. If you're here live and you want to ask your questions, here's a refresher on how to do it. Type in the @Rob or @Rob Schuh so that I know you're talking to me. And I will go back and forth between the previously submitted questions that were submitted via Twitter or Gmail and those that are asked here live. I think I have the first live one in here. By the way, I don't want to ignore any of those messages that were of positive support. And I appreciate that. I really do want to say that. Sean951, we got your back, brother. I appreciate that. Mark coming in. Sorry to hear that, Rob. Stay up pimping. I most definitely will. Raphael 562. Appreciate that. BK from the Bay. Thank you for coming in and saying that. 420 Savage. Damn. Sorry, bro. Sometimes get tough, but there's always a brighter tomorrow. That's a fact. This too shall pass. This too shall pass. That is a fact. No matter what you're going through, positive or negative, this too shall pass. Ramon coming in @Rob, sending you best wishes nonetheless. Thank you. Surf and Turf, we are here for you, Rob. Nick from the Mo, missed you, Rob. Appreciate that. Alan, Sneakerhead coming in. I get it. Really enjoy your thoughts on being human. I've had those kinds of days. If you need a shoulder, I'd be a great man. I appreciate it. 420 Savage, chin up, stay strong. Yes, I like the support. I like the positivity. I really do. Big man, little man @Rob Schuh. The Schuh Crew always have an extra ear for you. Yeah, like I said, just a little something going on in life at the moment, and wanting to acknowledge that it was just a day that I wasn't doing okay and felt that there might be people out there that would appreciate hearing that are going through something on their own. JM coming in @Rob Schuh. Life sucks sometimes. We appreciate your honesty, and I hope everything works out for you. I appreciate that. Mark coming in. Maybe Rob is sad because of the same reason I am, and that's because Jimmy is still on the team. LOL. Just kidding. No, Mark, I like the humor. I absolutely like the humor. And it is adding to my stress level. I'm telling you, having Jimmy on the frickin' team is adding to my stress level. All right, I've got Kim's questions coming in. For those of you that are in the chat, put in @Rob Schuh with those questions. I'm going to hit Kim's first question, then go over to a previously submitted question first, and I'll bounce back into the chat. Kim, Sneakerhead here on the channel, comes in. Rob, 3 questions. Why do the 49ers front office not take advantage of their biggest weapon, a quarterback, on a rookie deal, and load up? So I think you got to answer this in 2 parts. The first part is last year. Why didn't they take advantage of Trey being on year 1 of his rookie deal? And I think the answer to that is that they didn't think he was ready. They thought he was a very raw project. They believed that the talent on their roster, the core of their roster, was good enough to compete for a legitimate run in the playoffs. If they had started Trey, they didn't think they were going to get the same level of quarterback play that they got out of a base barometer of Jimmy Garoppolo, that it could have been, all over the map as Trey learned. This is my anticipation, my interpretation of how things played out last season. So then you get to this season, and it seems clear, hey, get Jimmy's salary off the books, allocate some of those resources at a bare minimum to re-signing some of your own, and then allocate the remainder of those to building out around Trey. Unfortunately, we still have Jimmy on the roster right now. I don't believe that was the plan. I think the 49ers have failed to execute in this offseason and found themselves in this tough spot. So I criticize them for their failings in being unable to deal Jimmy Garoppolo and still having Jimmy on the books. I do think that is through a series of events, some out of their control, some within their control, such as asking price for Jimmy Garoppolo and speed, with which they could have acted in lowering that asking price. I think those are things that they should be criticized for. And then there are some dominoes that they couldn't have accurately predicted. And therefore, I think it's unfair to completely criticize them for having Jimmy on the roster. At some point, I remain convinced they will get him off the roster, but I'm just not sure they're going to immediately reallocate those funds for building out the team. I do think they're taking a prudent approach in still waiting to confirm that they have what they believe they have in Trey Lance. I do think they have signaled that conservative approach to building this team, if they were lock, stock, and two smoking barrels about Trey Lance, I do think they would have pushed in a little bit more. And I don't think it's any doubt about Trey Lance. I do think they're being prudent, waiting to confirm what they believe to be true. All right, I'm going to get into a previously submitted question for those of you in the chat. Hit up that at Rob Schuh for your live questions. I will get to them in just 1 second. The first one comes in from Rohan. Rohan appreciated this. Great question. Should the 49ers improve their offensive line? If so, should they do it via free agency or the draft? To me, if the 49ers feel secure about their current depth, which is what I believe to be true. I believe the 49ers feel pretty good about their current depth at offensive line. I think if that's the case, it will be confirmed by them addressing the interior offensive line needs in the draft. If we do not see a corresponding free agency move by the Niners, to me, that signifies their level of comfort in the backups along the offensive line. If they're concerned about multiple positions, or if they're concerned about the potential return or non-return of Alex Mack, or the readiness of Mike McGlinchey at the start of the season, then I think they signal that by investing both in free agency and in the draft as well. So it's that free agency piece that to me becomes a clear signal of how the 49ers feel about the offensive line and whether they agree with the faithful that it remains one of the biggest needs on the team. I think there are some cheap options in free agency that still remain. So if the Niners signify, hey, we need to bolster that offensive line, we're worried about whether McGlinchey's going to be ready at right tackle to start the season, then I think they've got to bring somebody in. So would they value versatility? Could they go after a player like a Billy Turner, right? PFF has this. Turner grades, his grades have been solid, but unspectacular during his time as a starter. But his versatility of having played multiple positions on both sides of the line brings value to teams. That versatility may be his biggest strength, and he may best fit as a sixth offensive lineman that can cover four positions. If he gets a shot to start, his best play has come from right tackle. So you got that piece that could fit pretty nicely into what the 49ers might need. If they're unsure about Mike McGlinchey, boom, Billy Turner steps into that right tackle spot. If they're unsure about one of those guard spots, once they get into camp and there's competition, Billy Turner becomes competition there. If they fill out the starting five, Billy Turner can become that sixth offensive lineman that gives them versatility that we all know they value. If they're trying to uncover some value like they did in bringing in Laken Tomlinson, I could see Trey Turner, right? Trey Turner is one that's going to be a moderate cost, had a good start to his career, but has had a couple of down years, had a bit of a bounce back season for Pittsburgh last year. But you could argue, hey, Big Ben got the ball out of his hands really quick. He wasn't really tested. So it's still a question mark, but could be a depth signing for the Niners, and I think would be pretty cheap as far as free agency goes. The most likely scenario in my book is that the Niners do, in fact, feel good about the depth of their offensive line, better than most of the people in the fan base feel about it. I think they hope that Aaron Banks starts at left guard for them, going back to Aaron Banks' natural position coming out of Notre Dame. Mack, I believe they think, returns and holds down center. That's the news that we're hearing to this point. It would be sort of a shocker, although many people point out it was a shocker when Joe Staley retired. But the news indicates Mack will be back. Brunskill hopefully gives them the baseline for right guard, right? That's their belief. Hey, at a bare minimum, we've tendered Brunskill. He hasn't gotten another deal yet, so he can become the bare minimum at right guard, but maybe we get some competition. And then I would think that their hope is McGlinchey misses minimal time at right tackle or potentially none. They have the best idea of where he is in his health, progressing back towards playing, and they will know whether he's going to be ready to step in at right tackle. They'll be better informed than we are, that's for sure. So I think they go after drafting Mack's eventual replacement. This is how I view it. And a couple of people that I got my eye on, Cameron Jurgens out of Nebraska, Luke Fortner out of Kentucky, Cole Strange out of Chattanooga. That's the one that I have my heart set on. I'm telling you, Big Blue Review, a Giants SB Nation site, says this about Cole Strange. I'm trying to sell everybody on Cole Strange. His frame and athleticism suggest that a move to offensive tackle could certainly be possible for him, but all of his collegiate experience is at left guard. His athleticism would translate well to center, as would his awareness and football IQ, though he is tall for that position as well. A team looking to get Strange on the field soonest should at least try him at center and only attempt to move him to tackle if he proves unable to stand up to NFL nose tackles. Transitioning to tackle might take a year, but he should be a good utility backup for a team while he learns his new position. Strange could also be considered somewhat scheme limited. He's a good, reliable blocker in zone schemes where his athleticism, length, and understanding of angles are advantages. Might not be as good of a fit in blocking schemes that rely heavily on man gap concepts. Off the field, Strange has already graduated with a degree in psychology and routinely had a 4.0 GPA. So he's a smart dude. He can fit into that center role. I'm just telling you, that's where I've got my eye on. All right, I'm coming back into the chat to look at your current questions. All right, Alan coming in. Rob Schuh, good evening. I agree with you about being patient. Yeah, we are going to have to wait on this Jimmy G saga because there is no concrete line in the sand other than the start of the year when Niners guarantee that salary. It could go on a little bit. That Niner guy coming in at Rob Schuh. What's up, buddy? Kyle's interview to me was saying Jimmy's time is done. When asked about his relationship, he started right on the trade. I agree that when you interpret Kyle's, it was far more definitive as to Trey will be the guy in 2022. He danced around it less than John Lynch did. He still danced around it, but what do you expect? He has to dance around the topic. All right, this is the second question that came in from Ekem. Rob, number 2, since 2012, Super Bowl winning quarterbacks have been Brady, Manning, Foles, Flacco, and quarterbacks on rookie deals. Super Bowls aren't won by average talent quarterbacks, and that points to Jimmy. That's a fair statement, although it is not a question as far as I can tell. I do agree that oftentimes you would much rather have an elite level quarterback. The problem becomes there are only a handful of them. If the 49ers have one in Lance, great. We have the future set. If we don't, now we're back on a path looking for that. That's why I appreciate the 49ers roster construction, where they have gotten in those elite level talents around the roster and they've locked them down. So I believe even with average quarterback play, the 49ers remain a playoff caliber team, borderline Super Bowl caliber team. And all they need from Trey Lance is that above average play heading towards elite as he continues to grow. And I agree. I think that will make the difference. I think quarterback can put us over the freaking top. Thomas coming in. As far as patience, boo patience. Seriously, though, would a second or a third round pick be worth the proven second 2 or 3 players we could bring in with that $18 million minus his injury guarantee? I understand people's concept. I just of saying, hey, get the money now, spend it on free agents, and then don't worry about the draft pick that you're getting in return for Jimmy Garoppolo. I get that logic. I just am not convinced that the 49ers would take that money and go spend it on free agents. If I thought they were holding off on spending that money because of Jimmy Garoppolo, and that immediately after getting Jimmy off the books, they would go spend it on high-quality free agents that are still out there, I would fully support this. I just don't get the sense that they're going to push all their chips into the middle, even if they do get him off of the books. All right, trying to get back into your questions so I'm not too far behind. I know that one was a long previously submitted question that I got to. I love it. I love all the support too. All I had to do was say that I was having a day, and man, people are in there, and I appreciate that. I really do. George coming in. Rob Schuh, thank you for the support through everything. And to everyone on the channel who checked in on me, I really appreciate the faithful and you, my good man. My great-grandmother passed, and I'm feeling. I appreciate you coming on to say that, George, and I am sorry to hear about your great-grandmother. It is tough to go through loss. It is tough to go through loss, no doubt about it. Melvin Crediford coming in at Rob. I read an article written by a Commander beat writer. He trashed on Jimmy and basically wrote that the team dodged a bullet by not trading for Jimmy. Worst playoff quarterback in history. I could see fan bases being relieved in their choices. The Commanders, not so much. I don't think you can be relieved when you brought in Carson Wentz. I think you've got your own set of issues to deal with there. But if I brought in Matt Ryan instead of Jimmy Garoppolo, I get it. I get being happy with that upgrade. I don't think I would have been thrilled if I were Indianapolis with that deal. I'd be much happier with Matt Ryan. Ellis10, sneakerhead here on the channel. At Rob, is it possible that the 49ers are just holding on to Jimmy G until either A, he's healthy and can throw, or B, another team loses their starting quarterback and gets desperate, or both neither? Either is possible. I will say, Ellis, that it's my belief that the first one is unlikely. And I'll tell you why. The Niners may want to hold on to Jimmy until he's healthy to avoid the $7.5 million injury guarantee that they would accrue if they release him while he's still failing a physical. But assuming Jimmy got signed by any other team this year, and assuming he made at least $7.5 million, which I do think is a fair assumption that he would get paid at least around $7.5 million, that would cancel out the injury guarantee. So if the Niners had to eat $7.5 million by cutting him while he is still unhealthy, the team that signed him, as soon as they signed him to a deal, whatever they paid him in 2022 would offset what the Niners had in that injury guarantee. So if they did pay him less than $7.5 million, it would offset whatever they paid him for 2022. But I think in most scenarios, it would be enough to offset the entirety of the injury guarantee. So that would take away the logic of them holding on to him until he can pass that physical. If they just wanted to save that money, I think they could feel safe that they would save it eventually. But the second part of that, I do think it plays into it that, yeah, I think the Niners are hoping somebody gets desperate. I think they're hoping that the interest for Jimmy grows substantially, and that could happen by a team getting desperate because of injury. So yes, I think that is a possibility. Man, I got to take a second for Everett Kramer here, man. Ev coming in. Ev with the huge donation saying the day might be tough, but you still don't wallow. You still didn't wallow. Rob Schuh's show, always deep, never shallow. We appreciate you for being a good fellow. Use this, Benjamin, to get that thing that makes you mellow. The day might be tough, but you still didn't wallow. Rob Schuh's show, always deep, never shallow. We appreciate you for being a good fellow. Use this, Benjamin, to get that thing that makes you mellow. I appreciate it, Ev. I appreciate the support. That's honestly too kind of you. But, you know, I mean, I just got to say thank you. Just got to be appreciative. Just got to say I like the support from people, emotional, financial, either one. Quite honestly, you know, Ev, I know you pretty well with the interactions that we've had on the channel. And, you know, the money is very kind of you. Like I said, too kind. But the emotional support that I know you offer in that means even more. And so I just want to say that. I want to say thank you and cheers to you, Ev. Appreciate that. Very kind. All right, I'm getting back into the comments. Going to try and scroll back up so I don't miss anything. Philip coming in at Rob. I think Lynch is flying by the seat of his pants and still believes he can win. I do believe the Niners still think they're going to get something for Jimmy Garoppolo. Hell, I still believe that they're going to get something for Jimmy Garoppolo. I have modified that belief as to what they're going to get, the value of what they're going to get in return. But it certainly strikes me that he is a starting caliber quarterback, and therefore a starting caliber quarterback is worth something within the NFL. And I think the Niners are clutching onto that. And I believe they're right. That Niner guy at Rob Schuh. What is up, buddy? Feel like from Kyle's interview today, he's all in on trade. Reading between the lines from what he said, Jimmy's done with a trade or a late cut. Thank the Lord. I think people are excited for moving on, just getting rid of that frickin' drama. Philip coming in at Rob. We do have depth on the offensive line. What we need is starter quality, lots of backups. I would agree. in that I believe we need to address both the guard spots. My hope is that we go early in the draft to at least take one player, but I don't think that we can hope that they're going to address for competition for both. I don't think that is a distinct possibility for the. It's a possibility. I don't think it is likely. Andrew Hoax with the question at Rob, give me a TV show recommendation to stream. If you have not seen Ozarks, the Ozarks is a phenomenal show. I just caught up on the more recent half season that is out there. Really good program. I'm a big Jason Bateman fan. Both in comedies, but also in dramas. Giancarlo at Rob Schuh, trade Debo, draft Watson, and build for now. Trade Debo, draft Christian Watson, and build for now. I get the inclination to attempt to trade Debo after what just happened for Tyreek Hill and thinking that you can get a king's ransom for Debo. I would not. I would rather that he get paid. I would rather get that he get paid. E. Kim saying, I didn't get to the third point. E. Kim, I must have missed it. Can you copy and paste it back in so that I don't have to scroll through to get to that third point? I most definitely am happy to address it. Alan coming in at Rob Schuh. What Jed York had to say today about the whole Jimmy thing? Question mark. What did Jed York have to say about it? He seemed to indicate that he was fine in trusting John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. And I believe that he's right in that the 49ers front office and head coach have earned a little bit of our trust in that regard. They have made some good moves along. They've certainly made their fair share of mistakes, but everyone does. Yes, I think that it was Jed saying, hey, if we need to roll with Jimmy on the roster, financially, we are prepared to do so. But again, I think that's posturing. I believe that is absolutely what has to be said. So yes, I don't think it implies that we're really going to keep Jimmy, but it does seem like that's a possibility. Geely coming in to talk about the recommendation for the Ozarks. It's amazing. The character of Ruth by far has the most intriguing storyline. That entire freaking show delights me. All right, Melvin Crediford. I'm going to try and understand this one. 21 playoff games in the last 3 years, including the Super Bowl, where one team had a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter, ended up at 19-2. Guess who the quarterback was on those two losses? That would be Jimmy Garoppolo versus the Rams and versus the Chiefs. Yes, that is tough. That is absolutely tough. All right. Again, E. Kim, if you have that third question, copy and paste it back in. I'll get to it. I'm going back over to a previously submitted question. Ooh, he just popped it in. So I'm going to hit that right when I get back. E. Kim, stick around. I will be on to that question in just a moment. All right. So this next one is about, hey, what can we do to free up some of that money? Ryan C. coming in. Is it possible to restructure Jimmy's contract to help out the team, free up some of that money? Hey, if we're going to keep him around as a backup, at least we can allocate some of those assets to bring in some free agents, right? I get this line of thinking. I absolutely do. And the bottom line is could they? Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. But that may have an unintended consequence. That could have an unintended consequence of making him less attractive to trade at some point, which the 49ers still believe they can do. Even if you watching right now, listening right now, believe that's madness, that the Niners will never be able to trade Jimmy Garoppolo for another asset, they seem to believe that they can. I share that belief with them. Whatever team trades for Jimmy would most likely want to address his contract themselves. They would want to map it out such that it benefits their cap in a way that is unique to their team. If the Niners negotiated this contract, renegotiated it, gave him a big signing bonus up front, spread the guaranteed money over a year or two, added some voidable years, it may be perfect for their cap scenario, but it may no longer fit another team who wanted to re-sign Jimmy for just one more year or 2 years, or pay him $25 million for his services next year and then be able to make a decision. So the 49ers would need to be careful in how they extended or how they renegotiated Jimmy. The other factor that you must consider in this is Jimmy has to agree. The 49ers cannot just arbitrarily renegotiate his contract. He has to agree to renegotiate that contract. So Jimmy is not looking to take a pay cut, period. The best the 49ers can hope to do is spread that cap hit over a period of time. And again, I feel like that would be a poor decision for the 49ers because of its impact on your ability to trade him. And it just kicks the can down the road. Look at the dead money that we're looking at with D Ford right now. It's the same type of scenario. We just kept pushing it further and further down the road, but eventually you have to pay the piper. If it comes down towards July, that's the time frame I have my eyes set on. And that's a long ways away, Niner faithful. That is a lot of months of us putting up with the status quo. But if it comes down towards July, then the Niners may need to trade or release Jimmy in that book. That, to me, becomes sort of a hard line in the sand. It's not a hard line in the sand. The hard line in the sand is when his contract becomes fully guaranteed on week 1. That's the real hard line in the sand. But I do think there's a tentative line in the sand around July where you're actually going to be coming into training camp. I don't think the 49ers would want Jimmy practicing on the training camp field for fear of any type of an injury. To me, you follow the money in any of these situations. The Niners basically committed to going without Jimmy in 2022 the moment that they signed Nate Sudfeld to a contract that had $2 million of guaranteed money. It's not 100%. They could still fit those 3 quarterbacks onto the roster. But to me, they signaled their intent to get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo because of the fact that they committed to Nate Sudfeld as a backup. To me, it's a close to 0% chance that Jimmy is actually on the roster in 2022. All right, I'm getting back into the current comments here. I appreciate all of you in the chat. All right, we got Ekim's third question in here. He copied and pasted it for me, and I appreciate that, Ekim. He's one of our sneakerheads here on the channel. Ekim, Rob, Ben Roethlisberger and Russell Wilson were second-year starting quarterbacks that won Super Bowls in their second seasons and did reasonably well in their rookie seasons. Trey could have done no worse than Jimmy. That is, Ekim, that is a third point, but not necessarily a third question here. I like your optimism around Trey Lance, and I also am optimistic around Trey Lance. The one piece that I believe is a stretch is the final statement. Trey could have done no worse than Jimmy. I don't think you can actually say that. It's possible that Trey would have done no worse than Jimmy. I think that is a great statement. It is definitely possible. You could even say it's probable that Trey Lance would have done no worse than Jimmy, and I could be on board with that. But when you make it a definitive statement, based on what I saw from Trey Lance in week 5, I have to say what I saw in week 5 was a quarterback who would have struggled early on in the season. To me, I think it's fair to assume that we could have had some pretty significant struggles through the first half of the season. And then week 17, what he did against the Texans showed me he was capable of immense improvement. So I think it's fair to assume that in the second half of the season, we would have seen considerable improvement from Trey Lance. But when we would have seen that improvement, how quickly he would have made adjustments, whether he would have gotten sacked enough times to where it hurt his development, all of those to me are unknown and must be considered in a logical argument of whether Trey would or would not have done as well as Jimmy Garoppolo. But I also feel it's a bit of a futile exercise because it's attempting to rewrite history. So we'll never be proven right or proven wrong. The one thing that to me is a more interesting debate is, would the 49ers have gotten more value out of starting Trey Lance, regardless as to the outcome of the season? Regardless as to whether they would have been able to match the outcome they actually had, which was getting to the NFC Championship game, would it still have been worth it to start Trey Lance? That to me is a more interesting dialogue and one that I'm open to having. But again, when I look at, to me, the end result of 2021, getting to the NFC Championship game, I'm thrilled with that result. And therefore, I'm not as disappointed with the 49ers' decisions in 2021 as I know you are, Kim. But I appreciate the comments and I appreciate the dialogue. All right. Still looking for those that are at Rob Schuh. Jan coming in. Is Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, still available? I believe that he is. I have not seen that. I've not seen anything saying he's not available, that he's been signed. 420 Savage, once healthy, the 49ers save $7 million if released. Yes, that is true. But as I was saying earlier, they will still be able to save that $7.5 million as long as some other team signs Jimmy, even if he's released while injured, which he is right now. Thomas Luttrell at Rob Schuh, second-year player who didn't play a lot that makes the biggest jump out of Banks, Trey Sermon, Talanoa Hufanga, or does Mitchell go superstar? This is a great question and such a speculative one as well. I just have to admit that before I say it, is that this is a speculation. This is me guessing because I don't have inside access like 49ers coaches do to watch these players practice. The thing about Mitchell going to superstar is, to me, it would require him to improve his vision further down the field. I saw him make some cuts inside when outside would have taken him to the house. I saw him make cuts outside where inside would have led to the bigger lane. And that was at the second level. I think that's hard to assume his vision will improve, but maybe the game speed slows down for him and he begins to see those holes. I lean towards saying Aaron Banks because he tried to make the transition to right guard. That was tough. He may get to go back and actually play left guard. He'll have a year in the locker room, in the weight room, to put on that mass that he needs, the proper level of mass. I mean, he was a big guy to begin with, but an NFL weight room type of mass to step up. Trey Sermon, another one that the shift to Trey Lance could have a big impact for. Talanoa Hufanga, I mean, that one's tough for me because the criticism is, he's just not quite fast enough to play that safety spot. And so he would really have to develop those football instincts and take great angles in order to overcome that. So I've laid out the path that each of these guys could improve. Which one seems most likely to me? I got to say Aaron Banks. I think he will get the clearest role to go towards a starter where he wasn't a starter last year, right? Mitchell will probably remain that starter. But to me, he's got the clearest path towards a starting role and, one where you would think it fits his skill set, both in the transition to Trey Lance and in going back to that left guard spot. Joey Mellon's coming in. Rob, shout out to the Hundo guy. You deserve it, Rob. Yes, that is Ev Days on Twitter. Everett Days. Back in the day, I used to go EV Days. I don't know why I thought it was electric vehicle. And then we met, and it turns out Ev is a hell of a guy. A hell of a guy. Can't say enough good things. E. Kim saying, Rob, new point. I've never trusted this front office and Kyle on player injuries. Look at how they trusted D Ford, Jason Verrett, and Jalen Hurd. That's a fair statement. And you heard recently them talk about Javon Kinlaw. Someone tweeted out today a comment from last year talking about D Ford. And quite honestly, John Lynch said some similar things about the progression of D Ford last season. We all know how that turned out versus the progression of Javon Kinlaw this season. Maybe it was Kyle Shanahan that said those things today. I do think it's fair to be skeptical about the health of Javon Kinlaw until we actually see him on the field. I think that's fair. Murphy coming in with the super chat. It still doesn't add up. If you really thought Trey could win you a Super Bowl, why would you care what you would get for Jimmy and be holding on to him? Getting free agents and building the roster would be way more important. Okay, so Murphy, the only contradiction I have to that is this idea that the 49ers would instantaneously go out and get those free agents. If they are pursuing a more prudent approach, a more conservative approach where they don't want to max out right at this point in time, then holding on to Jimmy isn't costing them anything. And they see it as accruing assets in total, that they're simply attempting to accrue some assets as they exit Jimmy. And then they will have both the monetary assets and the draft capital, and they can use those as they see fit. They may not pour into the team right now. I see it much more likely as them making an in-season trade in attempting to get better, or being very aggressive next offseason when they have confirmed what they believe they have in Trey Lance. Go back and look at the Stephon Diggs trade for Buffalo and when that happened. It happened after Josh Allen's second full season as a starter there, right? Well, second season after his second season, where he had shown that he improved in those accuracy concerns. So That may have been prudent by the Buffalo Bills in waiting to make a big splashy type of move. I think the 49ers may be in that same boat. Jamie Bryant coming in at Rob Schuh. I hope we draft intelligently this year instead of just filling empty spots. We need starters now. I think the Niners have done a good job of addressing holes on the roster such that they can basically go best player available. I think there are weak spots on the roster. There's no doubt about it in my book. Offensive line, speedy wide receiver, safety, cornerback depth. There are areas I feel the Niners need to address. I think they need a third down running back. I would try to upgrade JaMychal Hasty, but I don't know that you can definitively say they have these spots. Fans would say that, and even some media members as well. I don't think the Niners would agree, especially along the offensive line. That, to me, is the biggest disconnect between the Niners and those of us that believe the Niners still need to invest there. And I have to trust that they see something in their depth that gives them that confidence. I hope they go best player available, but I also hope that they address some key areas. So to me, it's a balance. It's a balance of, yes, best player available, and acknowledging there are some bigger holes than I think they want to acknowledge exist on this team. David Williams coming in. Hi, Rob. I say we cut Jimmy the week before the season starts. I think if we get to that point and we have not traded Jimmy, I do believe that they will, in fact, cut him at that point. I totally believe that they would cut him at that point. I do not think they'll go into the 2021 season with him on the roster. Bullpup 33, sneakerhead here on the channel at Rob. Huff has the best instincts of the safeties on the team. I agree. I like him to start right now based on who we have on the team, but I don't think the Niners invested much there. Tavarius Moore is coming off an Achilles injury and never really showed enough to say he was going to stake a claim for that starting role either. And then obviously the safety that we picked up from the Colts, Odom, is a special teams ace and did play on the line there, up in the box as a starting safety for 7 games for the Colts. But I don't think that you can say he is a significant starter within the league, that it's a lock that he would hold on to that starting position. So I agree. If they invest nothing more at the position, I think Huff probably has the best chance of taking it. Niner Empire 541. What are the chances Hurd gets back on this roster? I would think none. I mean, he has been cut, right? He is out. And so you'd need to bring him back in. I just think he probably wants a fresh start elsewhere if he ever regains the ability to play. But I've not seen any news about him being ready to play. Kim, Rob, I want to see it from Kinlaw on the field and play consistently at a high level. The Niners want to see that as well. They absolutely do. Cake coming in. Kinlaw the Barbarian. Stay tuned, folks. For those of you that saw the interview, I'm telling you, it fired me up. Fired me up. Chris Royal, sneakerhead here on the channel coming in. What's up, Rob? You know I love me some Kerry Hyder. What do you think his impact will be this upcoming season? Can he match or exceed DJ Jones's play? I think you're looking at, a different impact from Kerry Hyder. No, I don't think he can match up to what DJ Jones did for the 49ers in making them an elite run-stopping defense. And I do think he can add to that edge rushing potential, give them some flexibility in being able to slide inside and provide some pass rush from the inside as well. So he may offset a little bit of what we lose from DJ Jones in being a very decent pass rusher for a 300-pound lineman who's primarily a run stuffer. He may offset that. But the Niners, I do think with the loss of DJ Jones, got weaker in their run defense. And I'm just not sure that Hassan Ridgeway is going to be a stopgap there. I think they're counting on Javon Kinlaw to really fill that. And I hope that the Barbarian is ready to contribute at that level. It sounds as if things are going well from the injury recovery, from the surgery recovery. But you never know until he's out there, live bullets for extended periods of time, whether it's going to hold up. So I have cautious optimism there. As far as Kerry Hyder, I believe that you'll see a return to his 2 more successful seasons, both of which came under Chris Kocurek, right? So I think it's fair to assume that you might get a 6 or 7 sack season out of Kerry Hyder this year. And that's phenomenal. From a role player on the team to get that type of production would be wonderful. I thought that was a great value signing by the 49ers. Absolutely loved that addition. All right, George coming in. Rob, I've been getting pumped seeing those Trey Lance, Ayuk, and Debo training videos. Also looks like Sermon has been working a lot more on cutting while running. I agree. I'm impressed by Debo's move where he's got the 2 dumbbells and he's doing push-ups while holding on to the dumbbells and balancing them. Can you imagine if one slipped? Like that's a broken wrist waiting to happen for a guy like me or a normal person like one of you watching. But no, Debo has the control, the body control, and the strength to hold on to that position. And I'm sure it's strengthening his wrists in ways that I can't even imagine. So yes, I'm fired up to see Debo out there doing his thing. Yes, I'm excited to see Lance out there doing his thing with Brandon Ayuk in SoCal. I can't wait to see these guys back out for any of the organized team activities. I'm telling you, I'm fired up to see Trey Lance, and I hope all of you guys are as well. Ekim wants to know, Rob, best beer brewery in Portland. Ekim, that is a tough one for me to answer because I don't partake. I don't drink anymore. Haven't for a long time in my life, but so I don't really know the brewery. I know they're good because of, friends that I have in the area and having eaten some food there. From a food perspective, Hopworks Brewery is my favorite. They've got this freaking warm pretzel with cheese dip appetizer that comes out. Forget about it. You had me at cheese dip and hot pretzel. Juan coming in at Rob 2022. You mean Jimmy on the roster? No, I do not think Jimmy will be playing for the 49ers in 2022. I realize the league year has started. He is still on the roster, so he's with the team in 2022. I do not believe he will play a single snap with the 49ers for the 2022 season. If I said 2021, then I misspoke. I apologize if that is the case. 420 Savage, believing Odom could shine brighter than Tart. I really like Tart. I thought that is still a very skilled player, fit well within the team. I hope you're right, though. I hope Odom can step up there. Cake, agree with this. Kosaric unlocks Hyder's beast mode. Yes, he does. He does that for a lot of freaking players. Just gets those defensive linemen to the next freaking level. Bullpup 33. Rob, I agree with you. Best player available for sure. Did you take a look at Kyron Williams from Notre Dame? I have not. I have admittedly not, Bullpup, but I am going to type that in right now as a name that I'm going to add to my list. Kyron Williams. Added, Bullpup. I will attempt to get to that by the next time you ask about it. Yes. Nick Money Meyer, what's up, Rob? Thoughts on us grabbing Julio for 8 to 9 mil? 8 to 9 mil seems a little pricey for a guy that I'm not sure still has it. I like the idea of signing Julio. I like the idea of adding a veteran presence like that to the roster, to the wide receiver room. A great like Julio Jones could be used in the red zone. Kyle Shanahan knows what he would be getting in Julio Jones. That price tag seems high because it doesn't appear he has all that much interest out there on the market. So I understand wide receivers are getting paid like it's funny money, but I wouldn't invest that much on bringing in Julio with the idea that he may only play 6 or 7 games, right? You don't want to be paying him $1 million per game. That's hefty. And he seems to have shown that it's difficult to stay on the field. Joey Huff at Rob, long time till the season starts, but any away games on your 2022 calendar? Denver and AZ are on mine. Yes, absolutely. There are, I think, 4 that I'm going to go to. Denver is definitely one of them. Hold on. Let me look up the 49ers schedule for 2022, and I will tell you which ones I am going to. All right, here we go. I am looking. Oh, I'm definitely going to Vegas. Vegas is happening. Denver is happening. And then Atlanta is happening. Probably going to go to Carolina as well. I think those are going to be the four that I hit: Las Vegas, Denver, Carolina, and Atlanta. No, I've been to Carolina, so that wasn't on my list. I feel like there was a fourth. Oh, Chicago. Chicago. They've got it listed further down. So Chicago, Las Vegas, Denver, and Atlanta. Those are the games I have on my calendar that I am attempting to go to next season. Now, that could all change. It is a long ways away, but those are the ones I have my eye on. Starco fan 212 coming in at Rob. What do you think we will get for Jimmy G if we can get a trading partner? All along, I said second and a fourth. That was the value I had for Jimmy starting back in November, where we began this conversation, up until the fallout, wherein there were no teams, no seats left after the musical chairs. I still believe we're going to be somewhat surprised by the compensation that we get for Jimmy. I think a team that trades for him will be somewhat okay in overpaying for him, because in overpaying for him, it will signal the value they place on Jimmy Garoppolo. So if they overpaid by one round in the draft, they are signifying we have faith in Jimmy, right? It gives confidence to the locker room. I realize you may scoff at the idea of a team giving away more in draft capital just to be able to say, hey, we're propping up Jimmy Garoppolo. But look at what the Niners did in order to prop up Jimmy Garoppolo. I do think there's something to that aspect of it. I would say that the Niners still get back somewhere in a third round compensation for Jimmy Garoppolo. I want to say that they'll still get a conditional second. It's hard to say without competition, without that demand for Jimmy G's services. So I am going to put it out there as a third round value. And you may think I'm crazy. John Solo coming in. Hey, Rob, Niner Nation. Sneakerheads unite. Yes. Felix Antonio Sanchez Barrero. Hey, what's up, Rob? How many games the Niners are winning this season? I had them at 11 or 12. The AFC West is on the docket, and the AFC West got freaking talent in free agency. So I'm going to take that down a notch to 11-6 or 10-7. That's going to be my offseason guess before we finish free agency, before we finish the draft. That's not my official statement, but that's where my offseason guess is right now. Eric Milner coming in at Rob. I think the Niners are trying to hide how good Trey is. Hope San Francisco will protect him this year. I would love it if that were the case. If they were just protecting him. If that were the case, though, wouldn't they want to shield him from this scrutiny and come out and really definitively say, Jimmy's gone, he's our guy? So I agree that they want to protect him in some respects. Hopefully along the offensive line, they invest in protecting him. But I think Shanahan was truthful in his statement that he believes Trey is he's strong. He's a strong guy that can handle the criticism. I forget how Shanahan worded it today, but basically he implied Trey's not soft. Like if Jimmy's there in the room, Trey's not going to be intimidated. Trey is a man capable of competition, right? He's capable of standing up for himself. I thought that was the message from Shanahan today. Johnny Robinson just coming in to do the good deed. Yo, everyone, hit that like button. It's free. Appreciate that, Johnny. It does help amplify my message. It does help get people's eyes on this video. Hitting the like button, subscribing to the channel, commenting on the videos. I've got a weekend's worth of comments to catch up with. I respond to them all as soon as I can. I was off on vacation, trying to rest up, trying to regain my sanity this weekend, and I think I did. So I will get to those comments that are there on videos. I always try to respond. All right, we got a couple of super chats. I will come back to some of these that I am skipping past right now to get to the super chats. John Solo just coming in with a super sticker, and I appreciate that. All right, Chris Royal coming in. Join the Sneakerhead Squad, folks. This dude, Rob, is a beast and is one of the best Niner content creators. Rob, let's meet up at the draft, sir. I will be there in Las Vegas. Chris, absolutely. Chris and I had the pleasure of meeting up in Seattle at that game. We will definitely meet up in Las Vegas, and I appreciate that. If you have subscribed to the channel, you can then hit the join button if you want to become a part of the Sneakerhead community, as Chris is. Murphy coming in. Love you, Rob, but mid-season trade for an entire O-line and secondary, they would be filling some of these holes if they had money. Unless you're worried about Trey, holding Jimmy just doesn't make sense. I get the criticism of the team, Murphy, and I don't mean to say that the Niners would address all of their needs. I think they believe they have most of their starting roles filled right now. That seems to be the message they are sending right now when you interpret the moves that they have or have not made to this point. There will be some of those things addressed in the draft. Those picks in the top 100 could absolutely turn into immediate starters. They may get lucky somewhere later in the draft as well. I think other than potentially one of those guard spots, the Niners probably view themselves pretty good at all starting positions. And I have to say that I've got my doubts about some of them, but I can't openly criticize any for being clear misses. I do think that they address the cornerback position. I think along their starters, they're pretty good. I would like some depth so that they could withstand an injury. Right now, an injury to Emmanuel Mosley would be catastrophic for the 49ers. They'd be back to trying to start Diamador Lenore or DeQuez Denard at the slot position, and I don't think that would be ideal unless Diamador Lenore takes a considerable step forward. But on the O-line, again, I think they believe they've got McGlinchey at right tackle. Trent Williams is locking down the left. Alex Mack has signaled he'll be back. They tendered Brunskill. They've shown that they're comfortable rolling with him at right guard. And then potentially you have Aaron Banks at left guard. They may view that as the starting five. I know that's not comforting to hear, but I believe that's where they're at. Jaguayo 56 at Rob Schuh. An observation I had the other day. We are starting to transition to a great mix of veterans and youth to keep us top 4 NFC team in the future. That's part of moving on to some of these younger players is if you have uncovered a gem, you now have a far more sustainable way to continue to grow your team, to build your team for the future and continue to have success. If they're right about some of these players stepping in that are younger, that are value at these positions, they then are freed up to, once they do trade Jimmy Garoppolo, which again, I believe they have to before the start of the season or release him, they can then use that money to add on to that, right? They can do the in-season acquisition. They can roll that money over to next year. I do think they're being somewhat conservative. I think even if they get Jimmy's money off the books tomorrow, they're not going to immediately turn right around and spend it. Brian Rivera, sneakerhead here on the channel, coming in, not a Benjamin, but an Andrew Jackson. Rob, love the content as always. Keep doing you and keeping it positive. Brian, I appreciate that. Again, I started out this video today for anyone, wondering about the comments that sort of hint at it. I just acknowledge that I'm in a rough spot. Like I'm not talking about right now what it is that I'm going through. I might at some point, but it's just, something that's going on in my personal life. It's actually been going on for a little while now. And there are some days that are harder than others. And I thought it was right to acknowledge that. In that, acknowledging that and pushing through it could serve to benefit somebody else who's watching. Just to hear that there's someone else out there going through something, just to see someone who's actively going through something and still fighting through it, still wanting to be positive, still wanting to communicate, wanting to have that dialogue, and acknowledging that it's okay not to be okay. So it felt important to me to say that. And I love the positive response that has happened within the channel and within the dialogue. So I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to Brian and thank you to everyone for the well wishings and say again that it was not my intention to evoke any type of sympathy or empathy or anything. It was just to acknowledge what I am currently going through in the hopes that someone else going through something could hear that and draw inspiration from it and that it might lift me up as well. And quite honestly, I think it did. I think talking about it, acknowledging it, helped me move past it and get into my positivity, which I like to remain in for these shows. Bro Montana with the super sticker coming in, and I appreciate that. I appreciate all of you. Remix, transparent is healthy. A frickin' men to that. If we could all be brutally honest with one another throughout life, we would be such healthier individuals. I know it's hard. I'm not brutally honest with everyone in my life. I try, but it's hard. Man, transparency is healthy. So true. Joey Mellons, sneakerhead coming in. Shout out to the non-drinkers. Haven't drank in years. All about the foodies. Yes, I am all about the food, Joey. It sounds like you and I could go out and have a fantastic evening where we plan out a dope restaurant, Doesn't have to serve any alcohol there, just has to have fantastic food. Telling you. G.I. Jones coming in. Not so positive, but hey, he's confident in it. 49ers will win 8 games or less. Just saying. I don't know what the logic behind it is, whether you're not a fan of the moves the 49ers have made to this point, whether you're not a fan of Trey Lance. When I look at the talent on this roster, the top-end talent at various spots throughout this roster, I have a hard time seeing a team that wins 8 games or less. It's a tough division that we play in. The AFC West is a very tough division, so maybe that is factoring into your statement. I have to assume, though, that to make that bold of a statement, you must not be sold on Trey Lance taking over. And in that one, I just have more faith in from what I saw from weeks 5 to week 17 with that improvement. All right, I'm going back over to a previously submitted question, and I'll be back into the chat in just a second. Again, if you drop your chat in right now, hit me with @Rob or @RobSchuh. Okay, this one. Here we go. Scott J. coming in. The 49ers desperately need a deep threat at wide receiver. This is, you're seeing the abbreviated question below. I'm reading the entire one that he submitted. It's not that much different. The 49ers desperately need a deep threat at receiver, especially if Trey Lance is going to be the starter and expected to sling it. Should we get Jimmy Garoppolo's salary off the cap by hook or by crook? Who would you like to see us go for as a true deep threat? Coming in from Scott J. Scott, I don't think we need that money because I see it as there is speed in this NFL draft, Scott. It is evidenced by those blazing fast times I witnessed at the NFL Combine in Indianapolis. My guess is that the 49ers would look to address this in the mid rounds of the draft. Somewhere in that 4 to 6 range is what I predicted. So I started to look at who are those prospects that are in that range. Who would it include? So at the higher end of that range is someone like Calvin Austin, right, out of Memphis. But he could be 3rd, 4th rounder. He's a small guy. 5'7", plays bigger and has a top end speed. The pro comparison was Taylor Gabriel, which obviously has the Shanahan link. He had a 4.32 40 time. If they address it sooner in the draft, I think Calvin Austin could be a name to watch. Velus Jones out of Tennessee, somewhere in that 4th to 6th round range. He's primarily a slot receiver, which I think is less of a need for the Niners after grabbing Ray McLeod. He's a little bit taller, a little bit bigger, 6 foot tall, 204 pounds. He ran a 4.31 40 time. He turns 25 years old before the start of this season. He was a sixth year red shirt, whatever the hell that was, senior year. So he had been in college 6 seasons before he actually earned that starting role. So a little bit older, may not have a lot of upside. But again, if you could get him in the 5th or 6th round, that might be enough. He adds value as a returner as well. Next up, Danny Gray out of SMU. Again, in that 4th to 6th round range, 6'2", did the junior college path, the JUCO path, 4.33 40 time. Got my eye on that gentleman. And lastly, the one I like the most out of this group, Bo Melton, coming out of Rutgers. Again, a late round. Originally was sort of predicted in that 7th round range, but because of the combine is climbing up, listed in rounds 5 to 7 now. 4.34 40 time. He's just a hair under 5'11", 191 pounds. This is what Pro Football Network had to say about Melton. Melton's athletic ability isn't solely predicated on long speed. The Rutgers wide receiver can accelerate with impressive suddenness. You can routinely see him deceiving defenders with a jogging pace that explodes into a sprint that leaves them yards behind. Additionally, he possesses decent lateral agility and change of direction ability. He uses these tools to separate as a route runner, but he also becomes a dangerous weapon after the catch. To me, I like the tape. I like the sound of Bo Melton. A little bit of an issue with catching. But hey, when you're taking someone late in the draft, they're going to have some issues. And drops was certainly something that the Niners dealt with Kendrick Bourne. And they seem to get some improvement there. All right, second to last one here. This one from Gary T. Then I'll be back into the comments. After watching John Lynch contradict himself, I wonder if there's really any point to asking questions. He just lied and wasn't called on it. The media gave him an easy ride with no hard follow-up questions. That's not proper reporting. He goes on to suggest that if only Grant Cohn had been there, we would have pushed him, Gary T says. So I've got to say that I do disagree with some of the harsh criticism that Bay Area beat reporters get. I'm not sure what type of animosity is actually expected in these settings. Having now been in these settings, it is difficult to be a jerk. You have to then deal with that person on a regular basis. This is a professional relationship that you need to maintain. Imagine if you had a vendor at work that you were relying upon for something, and you decided you were just going to be a jerk to them every time that you interacted. How difficult would that working relationship then become when you needed something from that vendor? So I think you do have to appreciate that. I also believe that you can be tactful in the way that you push, and I would like to see greater follow-ups. I think that that's a fair criticism, but I'm not looking for animosity between beat reporters and the front office. The types of reactions that I see on Twitter, believe they put me in thinking that we're talking about one of the worst franchises in the NFL. It's as if we are Cleveland Browns fans or frickin' Houston Texans fans, right? And we're not. We are a team that has shown us over and over and over again that they're a well-run organization underneath Shanahan and Lynch. That doesn't mean that I take everything that they do and trust it's for the best, but they have earned some level of trust from me. So I understand the Jimmy G situation is the most frustrating right now, but I have some trust in this organization to still pull this thing out and salvage something from it. And then I would ask, what questions do you believe would have gotten a different answer? Because if a reporter's really going to push an angle, that comes at some cost. You're not going to get clarity with most of these questions. So why would you then push so hard to piss off Lance or Shanahan? That relationship matters in getting answers in the future. So I sort of understand the difficult position these beat reporters are put in. I also understand that Lynch is limited in what he can say without totally destroying any chance of trading Jimmy Garoppolo. So he's stuck between a rock and a hard spot. But I get that I'm in the minority. I agree with Lynch and Shanahan that Jimmy has value and should not be outright released. I understand in saying that I'm probably in the minority. I believe he should not be released, at least not yet. There is a point where I believe he should be released before letting him play. There's no way I'd let Jimmy practice. I'd cut him before that. But that leaves us until around that July timeline. And I think it's time that we all buckle up because it's got the potential to be a long ride in that respect. All right, coming back into your comments here in the chat. So if you have them, hit the @Rob or @Rob so I know you're talking to me. Bullpup33. @Rob. I recently went through a death in the family. This type of chat has helped me through some tough times. Thanks to the Niner Empire. Bullpup33. Man, I'm sorry to hear that. I agree that in talking to people about the Niners and about life, it can help us get through these, and it can even serve as a distraction, which is oftentimes very healthy. But honestly, my condolences to you, Bullpup. I'm sorry to hear that. Starco fan 212 @Rob Schuh, just need some good hot wings and football. Hey, everything will be better when we have actual football playing. That's a fact. Ekim, Rob, when you stop by Chicago, I can recommend some good Korean restaurants. I look forward to that wholeheartedly. Andrew Leggett, Rob Schuh, hear me out. George Kittle to the Jets for their 10th and their 38th. Trade back from the first and get an extra third. Select Watson in the first, Petrie in the second, and Cole with our 61. Man, that's hard to pass up. If it played out like that, you get Christian Watson, Cole Strange, a couple of other picks to add. Jalen Petrie. Andrew, you're hitting some players in there that make this tempting. I still think the Niners would probably pass on this, but as far as value for the trade, I think you are in the right realm as far as getting value and what it would take to move on from George Kittle. Nobody is untradeable. As much as that pains me to say, nobody is untradeable. All you need is the right price. Greg Thames coming in, sneakerhead on the channel at Rob. Smash the like button. Please do. I appreciate those of you that hit that like button and amplify that signal for me. It costs you nothing, and it means a great deal to me. San Francisco 49ers at Rob Schuh. People who think we won't be good next season are forgetting how many good players we still have. I agree. I think that there's the temptation to allow the emotion of frustration with what's going on in this offseason to overwhelm our better judgment, which should be that, hey, if you weren't a fan of Jimmy Garoppolo, look at where the Niners got to with Jimmy Garoppolo as their starting quarterback. If you put in Trey Lance and he has a decent season, we should have a successful run in 2022. The 49ers experience with I'm That 49er Fan Kevin, sneakerhead here on the channel, coming in at Rob. It's total BS that they won't say Trey is the starter. Shanahan kind of did. That was as close as I think you can get without tanking the trade value, the trade value that's already tanked for Jimmy Garoppolo, without completely destroying it. I thought Shanahan flirted with that line, and I was glad to see it. Starco Fan 212 at Rob, rank these quarterbacks based on your opinion. Lance, Drew Lock, Jimmy G. I'm going with potential on this one, so I'm going Lance, Jimmy G, Drew Lock. But if it's, what have you shown me to this point, then I got to go Jimmy, Lance, Lock, because I think Jimmy has shown us flashes of what he's capable of. He's just consistently inconsistent, is how I like to say it. John Solo just coming in to do good deeds and drop the coin. Appreciate that, John. Sneakerhead here on the channel. Nick Money Meyer at Rob. Thoughts about amount of cheese Debo's going to get a year? 24 mil, 25 mil a year, and incentives up to 30 mil? Yeah. It's getting more and more expensive by the frickin' day. I think the contract will look really big. It'll look like 25 million a year, but when you actually break it down, I think it'll probably be a more reasonable 21, 22 million a year that just has some inflated numbers, that has the potential, if he's healthy the entire time and performs like he did last season, to hit some of these staggering numbers. But I think it will be difficult to reach most of those incentives. That would be my take on it. I do think that we see pretty soon what that contract is going to look like. I believe that they'll be able to get that deal done without having to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. I think they're going to keep that first year cap hit on Debo down to where it basically is right now. I still think that it gets done somewhere around July. All right, here we go. The 49ers experience with I'm That 49er Fan Kevin saying at Rob, like, come on. The amount of assets spent on Trey and can't commit Jimmy is washed. I like Jimmy as a person, but not as our quarterback. I like Jimmy as a person. I like him as a quarterback. I don't like him as our quarterback. I want to move on to Trey Lance. It feels cleaner just to do it right now without dragging this thing on. I, however, do understand that there's no real difference to me between my stress, except for my stress levels, between trading Jimmy or cutting him now versus cutting him in July. Like, we may get to July and have to cut him anyway. There's no advantage right now. I don't think the Niners are going to go out and spend that money on free agents. I think they have gone after the individuals that they are most interested in and still have one or two moves they could make to sign some other players. I think it's possible that it got in the way of signing some free agents. At this point in time, I'm not convinced if they freed up the money, they would go and spend it on quality free agents. I've not seen anything to lead me to believe that they would spend their money in that way. 420 Savage at Rob Schuh. You helped me with a speech after the Dallas playoff game. It was the hardest game to watch in my life. I lost someone to cancer who I was caring for the night before the game. Thank you. 420 Savage. I'm touched that we were able to sort of assist one another in that way, that in that night, whatever it was that I said reached you at a time where you needed to hear it. And now in like kind, you are saying something to me on a night where I could use the positivity, and you are therefore inspiring me. And I think it's interesting how kindness put out into the world oftentimes begets kindness. I believe wholeheartedly that kindness is magic. I believe wholeheartedly that the way we treat each other in this world matters, even on the internet. I know how wild that is. But even on Twitter, even on the internet, How you treat other people matters, and it says something about you, and it affects that other person. And I want to believe that I am a good person, but in order to be a good person, my actions have to follow up with that belief. And I believe one way I can do that is through kindness. I'm glad that kindness touched you in some small way. And thank you for your kindness in return that does right now in this moment touch me as well. The 49ers experience with I'm That 49er Fan Kevin, sneakerhead here on the channel. Again, he's typing in the @Rob or @RobSchuh. So that signals to me it's a comment for me to read. So if you want to comment read, throw that in there as well. Jimmy will be gone before the trade deadline. Trey Lance era. Debo. I agree. I think Jimmy will be gone before week 1. That would be my assertion. He's gone before week 1. 420 Savage @RobSchuh. I think of that speech you gave about being positive every day. Big respect. Thank you. I believe in it. I believe in positivity. I believe it even in times where I'm going through something. That positivity can drag me out of it. Patty Grimes @Rob. I have health problems for the last 20 years. Talking about sports and other things helps get through it. Patty, couldn't agree more. Being here for one another, having these dialogues, it means a great, great deal. Yes, it does. We can lift one another up. Steven coming in @Rob. I'm ready for Lance. Let's go. Go Niners. Yes. Melvin coming in to say, I think this is in reference to my talk about renegotiating Jimmy's contract. You can absolutely trade a player who you've restructured. 100%. What I mean to say, and I think what I said there was, you might inadvertently make Jimmy less attractive as a trade asset by restructuring that contract. You can certainly still move a restructured deal. However, when teams restructure deals, they do it to benefit themselves. And therefore, the way in which a deal was restructured would benefit the Niners. It may not benefit the trading team in the same way it did the Niners. It may make the cap hit higher in a year. They would prefer it be lower. So what I mean is, by changing the contract, you take away some flexibility from these teams that are looking to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo. You do not, it does not impact your ability to move him necessarily, but it might. It might make him less attractive as an asset. And that's bad because he's not very attractive as an asset right now. Eric Milner @Rob. When Trey shows out, the Niners will move on, and hopefully they can get a mid-season trade like they did with Emmanuel Sanders a few years ago. Eric, I'm with you on this. I think they will confirm what they believe they have in Lance. They will trade Jimmy Garoppolo prior to week 1, and they will make an in-season acquisition of someone who raises this team to the next level. I believe that wholeheartedly. Mark Hicks in the building. Mark, good to see you. My best friend here coming in at Sneakerheads. Will Smith that like button. Maybe too soon for that joke. Maybe not. Maybe not. I think we're ready for it. Joey Nichols @Rob. Do you think a Bosa deal gets done this year or next? I thought the Niners would really press for this year. I still think they will press for this year. And I think Bosa could have some motivation to get it done this year as well. So in Bosa's camp, they're debating the idea of, hey, we wait until next year, we get paid like $30 million more over the life of the deal. But if we get the deal done this year, we lock in that guaranteed money and the risk is off the table. Because if you don't get a deal done this offseason and you get injured in 2022, you've now screwed up that next deal. So is Bosa more inclined to get the guaranteed money locked in, or does he want to have potential higher upside, but in doing that, needing to bet on himself and his health for another year? I tend to still believe that he'll be motivated to get that guaranteed money locked down this offseason. I think they get the deal done with him this offseason. E. Kim coming in. Rob, per the CBA, the 49ers could franchise Debo and work out an extension or trade him. Yes, that's true. They will put the 5th-year option on Bosa and work out an extension or trade him. This is a business. It is absolutely a business, and they could do that with either one of those players. They would not franchise tag Bosa this year. They'd obviously do the 5th-year option that you're talking about, and they could franchise tag Debo. But now you're getting into a staring contest, and you're openly flirting with trading these players. I think that if they're going to get traded, it would happen in the middle of the night, like the DeForest Buckner. We would all get caught off guard. I do not believe they trade either one of them. Castro 007. Let's go, Niner gang. Wish y'all the best. Coming in from the Raiders side of the Bay. I appreciate the support. That is very kind of you, Castro 007. Ekim, Rob, Jimmy's contract has nothing to do with Debo or Bosa since these moves are in the 2023 offseason. That's not entirely true. They could increase this year's salary for Bosa or for Debo. That's just not what they have done in the past, and I don't think they would do that with Debo or Bosa either. So we're in agreement there. As I've said, I don't think they'll increase Bosa or Debo's numbers, cap hit numbers for this year and redoing a deal. I think they would keep them inexpensive in year one of those deals. The 49ers experience with I'm That 49er Fan, Kevin. At Rob, what's your favorite player in the draft? Any crazy rumors? No crazy rumors that I'm aware of. Very much infatuated with Jalen Petrie, Cole Strange, Marcus Jones, Christian Watson, but I have sort of allowed him to get off my radar because I just don't think there's any possibility we end up with him on the roster. But those are all names I got my eye on. Joey Nichols, at Rob, Will Fuller on a 1-year prove-it deal as a deep threat for Trey. I love that. I have Will Fuller on my list of available free agents that is worth a flyer. Go, minimum deal. It's got to be incentive laden because he has dealt with some serious injuries in his time. But when healthy, that guy's a stud wide receiver. John Solo, love Kyle Hamilton, Notre Dame. You think there's any chance there's a shot there? Could lock down safety for a while. John Solo. I think the Niners could go safety early in the draft. There are a couple of players, like I said about Jalen Petrie, I think there are a couple players out there they may target. San Francisco 49ers, at Rob Schuh. Shanahan has always followed his way of keeping quarterback one a secret till he has no choice. Why would he change the way he does things for fans? Laugh my ass off. I'm telling you, that's what I believe. That is what I believe, that he has no motivation to tell us the actual truth. He's just holding on to that, but he did hint at it more than last year, and that's a little relief because I want to hear it. I want to hear it. Alan saying, at Rob Schuh, I love the content. If others like the show, hit that like button. New 49ers fan coming this August. Stay positive. Alan, appreciate that. You know I do. Steven, at Rob, should we still try to get McCaffrey? Him and Mitchell, I see deadly. I don't know that I'm willing to commit big money to a running back that has as many health concerns as Christian McCaffrey. That seems dangerous to me. I would rather get some value in the draft, as the 49ers have been able to do in years past. So I would not be interested in Christian McCaffrey. I would love to see it if it happened, but I wouldn't pursue it. I'm the 49ers experience with I'm That Kevin. I'm That 49er Fan Kevin saying, at Rob, manifestation is the way. You got to want it, Niners. Super Bowl. Richard David T, at Rob, that like has been Will Smith. In moving forward, I hope contracts are more front-loaded when possible, when put together, as opposed to backloaded, which seems to be happening a lot. Yeah, we are backloading everything. Frickin' everything. I'm telling you. It does seem like we are kicking a lot of money down the road. Sarzar9 says, Hawks fan here, but thanks to fantasy football and the Russ trade, I am following the Niners a lot more. You think Sermon will play more this year? I do. In watching those videos, I have some optimism that this is a bounce back year for Sermon after not having a great season last year. Certainly seems like he could be a better fit with Trey Lance under center. I think he could be a value in fantasy football. I'm not going high on him in fantasy, but I am buying low. Dustin Kohler, who will be there at the draft with me, saying, at Rob, positive vibes, my friend. See you in a month. Yes, you will, Dustin. Las Vegas bound, my friend. Both Dustin and Mark are going to be there. Can't wait to be surrounded by my best friends. That is going to be a good feeling. All right, I got one more previously submitted question that I'm getting to. If you got any last questions you want answered live in the chat, throw them in right now. This one's a little bit of a redundancy, but I'm going to take a slightly different angle here. Do you think the Niners should draft a center in this year's draft to develop behind Mac? So let me reiterate some of the things I said earlier, because that was the first question. That was almost 90 minutes ago. So you may have forgotten, and most of you may not have seen it. But again, I think that, to reiterate what I believe is possible, the most likely scenario, the Niners feel better about their depth along the offensive line than most of the fan base. They probably hope Aaron Banks starts at left guard, Mack at center, Brunskill at right guard, and McGlinchey at right tackle. I do think they draft Mack's replacement. I listed 3 players in the earlier question: Cameron Jurgens, Luke Fortner, and Cole Strange. And I gave you a little background on Strange as well. To me, this is the addition of it. This is what the question at hand is for the San Francisco 49ers. It's the ideal time to draft Alex Mack's replacement so that replacement can learn from the very best subject matter expert when it comes to being a center within Kyle Shanahan's offense. No other center has spent as much time as Mack in Kyle Shanahan's system. It would be criminal not to pass along that information from Alex Mack to that rookie throughout this season to be the heir apparent for the center position. It could create somewhat of a seamless transition as long as you didn't miss on that draft pick. This feels like an absolute must to me, and it must happen in my book prior to the end of the 3rd round so that you're investing the appropriate asset at this issue. I don't want to see another conundrum where the Niners are like, well, who's our center going forward? Grasu? Are we bringing Grasu back? No. Let's get a real plan in place. To me, it's one of the Niners' first 3 selections. That's when it has to happen. Got to invest. If it is a priority for you, got to invest. It looks as if we got one final question, not to me, but is it possible that we go after JJ and Nagbe from SC? I mean, I think everything is possible at this point in time. Everything is possible. Well, except for maybe this. Everything's possible but this. I agree with Shane. Shane here says, why would anybody be campaigning for Baker to join our team? He's just slightly better than Jimmy. We have got to raise the bar, folks. We don't need to do more with less. That one doesn't seem like a possibility to me. I don't see a scenario where Baker or Sam Darnold end up on the 49ers. I don't. Syard coming in with the super chat. I swear, if Jimmy sticks around, I'll be thankful to the man who took my team out of their division multiple times. I wish people had more appreciation for the man who got us over cap. I swear, if Jimmy sticks around, I'll be thankful to the man who took my team out of their division multiple times. I wish people had more appreciation for the man who got us over cap. Sired, I'm not sure I'm entirely following the logic there. I sense that what you're saying is you'll be incredibly frustrated if Jimmy is still around, but I'm not necessarily following the logic of the rest. Feel free to put back in with a regular comment and I'll try to get to it and understand it a bit better. I agree with the relief that once Jimmy is gone, I will feel a hell of a lot better. I will feel a hell of a lot less stress. Joey Nichols, at Rob, you have a knack for lifting people up. Combine that with a smooth, professional presentation style, and we're talking first-round traits. Someone get this man a top-level gig. Joey, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. That is very kind of you. Very kind of you. Andre, at Rob, if NFL teams were smart, they would allow all rookie contracts to play out play out to the final year instead of paying big off of one good year or the final year. Chance of injuries and lack of high play are high. Yeah, I think that's the collective bargaining agreement of the players wanting that guaranteed money. Oh, man. Jerome, sneakerhead here on the channel coming in. Jerome, thank you. Jimmy cut before week 1. Trey is going to be the starter, but peace and love, you, Rob. Remember, we are not as alone as we think. I appreciate the second part of that. So first part, Jerome, sneakerhead here on the channel, believes Jimmy is definitely out of here before week 1, and we are in alignment there. He believes that Trey is going to be the starter. I totally agree with that. And then taking the second half of that, just to be kind, just to send peace and love my way, and to remind me and to remind everyone that in those moments, even when you feel down, even when something's going along, that you're not as alone as it feels. And it feels really, really alone sometimes. It feels like you are the only soul on this planet. I know that feeling, and it's not real, and it will pass, and it will get better. And all you need to do is surround yourself with somebody who will listen, someone who will be there for you, someone who can be a shoulder for you to lean on. And that doesn't even have to be someone that you know. It can be a complete stranger. Kindness from a stranger could be the difference between your day being complete shit and your day being something that marks a turnaround in your life. So I say that because even if you're not going through anything and you're saying to yourself, well, why do I need to listen about somebody who may be going through something? Well, maybe you bumped into somebody today who was going through something and you had a chance to impact their day. And maybe you didn't take it. Maybe you did. And if you did, you deserve praise. You deserve someone to come up and say, thank you for doing that. And if you did, I say thank you for that. But if you had an opportunity and you missed it, you'll get another one tomorrow. Be kind to the people you come in contact with. Be kind. And thank you, Jerome. That is very kind of you. Andre, at Rob, if NFL teams were smart, they'd allow all... we got to this one. Yes, I agree. The chance of injury is high. D.S. Carrera, Rob is so wholesome. I mean, you might not say that if you completely knew me, but I appreciate that. Sometimes I'm harder on myself than I should be, and so I appreciate you saying that. Thank you. Brian Rivera, sneakerhead here on the channel. At Rob Schuh, if the preseason calms down, would love to get your backstory. You're inspiring, man. Thanks for all that you do. Brian, I appreciate that, and I see that as an ideal time to close out. I will definitely do some shows that allow for a little bit of conversation just between all of us in a way of getting to know a little bit about me and me uncovering a little bit about those who are most involved in the channel or would care to share something about themselves. I would like to get something like that. And I think it would be important to frame it ahead of time so that those who just want Niner stuff, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you may hear me talk about negativity and trying to be positive. You may think that's cheesy and off brand or something you don't want to hear about. And I respect that. Like, this is a Niners channel. I try to keep it primarily about Niners, but it is my Niners channel. And I got to be true to me first and foremost. And I personally am going through some things. I'm a big believer in being supportive of other people who are going through things. I'm a big believer in kindness and positivity. And so those things will always remain true to this channel. And I hope those of you who watch can appreciate why I try to bring that into 49ers content, why I feel that that's so important. But I respect the fact that that you might not, and I just hope that for those of you, I can put out enough Niners content to satisfy both, so we can have shows that just stay focused on football and some that are a bit more open-ended in that regard. Another sneakerhead just coming in to be kind, Raphael 562 Niners with the super sticker. Thank you, Raphael 562. Eric Milner coming in to say, thanks, Rob. Appreciate that. Paul pointing out what is absolutely true. We could all be better. Not everyone bothers to try. And some days it's too hard. Some days it's too hard to try. But when it's not, when you're full of positivity, spread that out. Give it to somebody else. Pay it forward. Kevin, indeed. We need a C protege. At Rob Schuh, positive vibes always. And from here to over the pond. Hit the like. Good night, all. Kevin in Glasgow. Bryant Culp, great show, Rob. Shane Alston, 100, Rob. 420 Savage, I would buy that. Rob Schuh, Life as a True Niner Fan book. Appreciate that. Patty Grimes, at Rob, being nice to some random person you meet during the day can help spread positivity. 1,000%, Patty. And you don't know what you just did for that person. Man, just next time you go into a restaurant, talk to the host, talk to your server, make them smile, brighten their day. I'm telling you. Alan Eliza coming in at Rob Schuh. Thank you. Have a good night. Thank you. You as well, Alan. Everyone, have a good night. Robert Pacheco, who the man? You the man. You the man, Robert. Everyone in here in this dialogue has been fantastic. Such good positivity. This was a great mailbag. I came in feeling a little bit down. I was upfront about that, and you all were here for that. I appreciate it. If you enjoyed the content, please do. I say it always, and I mean it. It amplifies the signal. If you haven't hit the like button and you did like the content, hit it on your way out. Subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Consider becoming a sneakerhead if you want to support the channel even more. But I'm here regardless because I enjoy this and I love the dialogue. And I'm grateful for all of you who are here and who are part of it. I want to give a special thank you to everyone who said something kind tonight. especially those that went above and beyond in the super chat. That really was, I don't know what to say. I mean, Ev, you kicking it off there. Just thank you. I guess that's what should be said is thank you. So I appreciate all of you. Those that have reached out and contacted me, thank you. And I will be back. I will be back tomorrow. I'll be on Between Two Beards with Randon McMahon tomorrow at 5 p.m. Until then, know that I love all of you, and you know the drill. Cheers, Niner Faithful.